Yes, this is called a lambawani. They are, the style where they are sewn together is typical of the Sakalaba tribe in the northwestern part of Madagascar, and I'm actually missing the top part because my full complet is at home with my parents in Oregon. But generally women wear another piece of fabric that matches, that goes over their head, and it has less to do with modesty and more to do with sun. It's a really hot culture and climate, and people are very, very conscious of the effects. In 2000, there was kind of a controversial election, and the man who was elected, Mark Ravalomanana, he was educated in the U.S. and really found that there were a lot of doors that were open to him through his knowledge of English, which he had learned because he was privately educated. And he thought that one of the really essential ways to bring Madagascar into a competitive place in not just the African market, but in the world market would be to start producing high quality English education. And he really put it towards the front of the educational initiative in Madagascar. And Peace Corps volunteers were really central in his development of the curriculum, and also served a really strong capacity in regional centers, working with not just students but teachers. Like you mentioned, part of my task was not just to be a teaching English as a foreign language volunteer, but also to be a peer teacher supporter. So I met with not just the teachers in my school that I worked at, but in the high school, in the neighboring communities, to work with them on implementing more practical ways to teach English. So not just having students copy off of the board, memorize what's there, but introducing ways to participate and actually learn and engage peers in their own education.
So I was a community economic development facilitator in Costa Rica. So it's a beautiful country. It's a much more developed country, so sometimes people are surprised when you hear Costa Rica. My experience was wonderful in community economic development. It's kind of a very broad term, so you have a lot of options and avenues to work in. Some of it actually is teaching English as a foreign language, especially Costa Rica, which heavily relies on ecotourism. They really want to learn English, so that was part of my role, was teaching English as a foreign language. Also, as a community economic development consultant almost, I did a lot of training programs and facilitated a lot of workshops. So a lot of local cooperatives, government institutions, community groups, they wanted to be able to, how can they practice better business approaches? So maybe that was doing community needs analysis. Maybe that was doing a business proposal. How are the steps? How do you proceed? So really it was going in and working with community groups and community organizations to give them those tools and those knowledges through training workshops. So.
Okay, and also I realized that you went to the Waorani tribe in the Amazons. So how did you end up there?
That was an interesting story. So actually my mentor when I was an undergrad student was a returned Peace Corps volunteer, and she served in Ecuador. And she used to always tell me these wonderful stories about her experience and really how she was still involved with her country. You know, what she's now 20 years down the road, and she still reaches back to them, sees what's going on, how can she help, you know, can she provide anything. She goes visit her family. And something that's really an organization she's involved with, a nonprofit, helps with developing curriculum for a local indigenous tribe that's located in Amazon. So after Peace Corps, I decided I had enough skills in training and workshops that I could now get involved. Before I thought, you know, I really need to research more, gain more experience before I get involved in this. So after the end of Peace Corps, I really thought, you know, I can do this. I feel like I have the tools and the capabilities to be able to help and support this organization. So going in there, that's something I did a lot of research, and I'm now still working on now. And thanks to Peace Corps, that's something that I was able to get involved in.
Unfortunately, there was a turn of political events in Madagascar while I was there, and Peace Corps decided that it was advantageous to close the program temporarily, and so that gave me the opportunity to move to a second country. And
so I have a question for everybody. Many people might be interested in finding a college level opportunities. So what opportunities can these folks find out there in the Peace Corps program?
I think within the Peace Corps you can also get placed sometimes as a TEFL volunteer in colleges, and mostly I believe that's in Asia countries if I'm not mistaken. So
You mean to work in a university setting?
In a university setting, if that's something of interest.
Yeah, they definitely have some positions. I know another of the current peace workers served in Mauritania and then went to China, where he was teaching at the university level. He was teaching English. There's also positions in a lot of countries, like Whitney had mentioned, where you're a teacher trainer. So rather than teaching students directly, you're helping those teachers to develop their skills, which is definitely challenging when you're not used to the classroom environment, but also kind of has that more college level feel, I guess, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay, so if somebody wants to teach there at the college level, what requirements or what things you believe this person needs to be doing now so he or she gets prepared for this activity? Anyone?
I would say to that point that I oftentimes, as a Peace Corps volunteer, found that having some advanced training in a topic would have been really useful, and I think that's something that is lacking with the fact that the majority of Peace Corps volunteers are directly from their undergraduate degree. They don't have a lot of practical experience to bring in that. If someone had a master's in TEFL, for example, or a master's in TESOL, that Peace Corps would be able to capitalize on those skills and maybe look for placements that other Peace Corps volunteers directly from undergraduate, their undergraduate training don't necessarily possess it at that moment.
Okay.
I think
Also, just say that in Peace Corps, you were talking about on the front end, kind of going to Peace Corps, but there are a large number of returning Peace Corps volunteers that move into academic careers, kind of engaged academics. We have several faculty on campus who are returned Peace Corps volunteers from different eras of Peace Corps. Dr. Kevin Eggert, who's the chair of sociology, was served in Peace Corps in the 60s. Ed Orser, that just retired, chair of American Studies, was Peace Corps. There's probably towards 10 or more faculty members here whose kind of engaged way of kind of linking research with teaching and community-based work came directly out of their experience in the Peace Corps. So, it's not just a kind of a timeout really anymore. There's this really can be kind of integrated into your experiences before and after, and the Peace Worker program is an example of that, where